Hey guys, it's Miss Hammond. Welcome to our Wonders lesson for today. Before we start our lesson, let's talk about our inquiry question. What can you do to get the information you need? So while you read your stories for this week, make sure you keep that at the back of your mind. The next thing I want us to talk about is fairy tales. That's the type of books we will be reading this week. So let's talk about the different parts of a fairy tale. Takes place in a made-up setting, such as Once Upon a Time, often includes royalty and other magical characters, and may have a problem and solution. Okay, so you guys are going to be working on making predictions. It can help you with unfamiliar text, information from the text to make predictions. So what might happen or what might be learned. Okay, so be thinking about that. When we make predictions, we're figuring out what is going to happen next. One thing that can help us is our Think Aloud cloud. I predicted blank because. So while I'm reading, I can fill this in my mind or even write it down, and that'll help me with my comprehension. Okay, so I'm going to read some of our interactive read aloud, and I'm going to work on my making predictions. Jack and the King's Rainbow Fish. King Ferdinand loved his garden nearly as much as he loved his daughter Eloise. He especially loved the exotic fish with shimmering rainbow-colored scales that swam in a pond at the center of the garden. One day the fish began to vanish. The king was livid. "Why are my fish disappearing? I must put a stop to this," he declared. The king offered a reward to anyone who could find out what had happened to his fish. People tried, but failed. Then one day a bold and clever young man came along. Introducing himself as Jack, he said to the king, "If you give me your daughter's hand in marriage, I will end your problem." Impressed by the lad's confidence, the king accepted his offer. I predict Jack will be able to figure out why the fish are disappearing because he is clever. I also predict he will marry the king's daughter. Okay, so if I were to fill out my Think Aloud cloud, I would say I predicted Jack will be able to figure out why the fish are disappearing because he is clever. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple more paragraphs and then we are going to predict together. Jack searched the garden for footprints, but the only footprints he found belonged either to him or the king. Next, he questioned all the people in the king's palace, but no one had even a clue. So Jack spent the night in the garden, right beside the pond. For 2 nights, Jack kept watch, but nothing happened. Then on the third night, he spotted something bright descending toward the pond. "A fishing lure," Jack thought. Where there's a lure, there's sure to be a pole. Sure enough, Jack saw a long pole slanting over the garden wall. He crept through the garden and climbed up the wall. Peeking over the top, he saw an ogre with a fishing pole and in his big hands. "So that's the thief," Jack thought. Okay, go ahead and pause 5th grade, and I want you to predict what's going to happen next. Okay, so my first prediction was right. So if we figure it out, you guys, sometimes our predictions are wrong, and that's okay. Sometimes they're right. Jack figured out how the fish were disappearing by observing the pond and following the fishing lure. So my next prediction is Jack is probably going to talk to the ogre. I'm not sure exactly how yet, but I think he's going to talk to him because he needs to figure it out for the king why the fish are disappearing. All right, 5th grade, finish watching all of your videos and then go check your to-do list. Have a great day.